In the elephantine circumlocutions of the Pentagon, bombing is air support. The dead and wounded are inoperative combat personnel, and a parachute drop is a pre-dawn vertical insertion. It's the ordinary fighting men who've given us boondocks for the sticks, gung-ho for keen, honcho for boss, and the universal acronym SNAFU for situation normal, all f***ed up.
There's an old saying that a language is a dialect with an army and a navy. And in the past, all international languages have first followed the flag of imperial conquest, like Greek, Latin, French, and Spanish. But the story of English is different. When the British Empire began to fade, American power gave the language new life. And now there's a third stage. English has outgrown both its British and American parents. And out there, across the Pacific and around the world, regardless of mother tongue, English is everybody's second language.
In 1984, 3 out of every 5 jumbos in the air were flying the Atlantic. Today, 3 out of 5 are crossing the Pacific. Now, world trade and world English are taking off together. Japan is the engine room of the new Pacific economy. It has an astonishing 20,000 English words in everyday use, known as Japlish. For a Japanese, home is my home. Where you live is my town. If you're popular, you're a nice guy. Teenagers have girlfriendu and boyfriendu. English is everywhere, from the top 20 to the fast food business. Japlish runs from the manager to the menu. Eisu krimu, mirku, and even hamburger.
We in Oxford sell more English dictionaries in Japan than we do in the United States. They read them and use them and conquer the language. The learning industry of the Japanese is quite extraordinary.
English Picture Dictionary D.
Dream.
Ring.
Dream.
Ring.
Fly.
Japan is very important in Pacific English.
Singapore is a multiracial society, Chinese, Indian, and Malay. But to unify its people, it puts English first.
The first business of any language is to help our people make a living. And it's no use fulfilling our cultural selves if we can't fulfill our biological selves. So we make a living, and that means we have to learn English.
Singapore's prosperity was founded on ship repairs. These workers depend on English for their dealings with the outside world.
All this business has been done in English, and contract documents has been done in English too. The Japanese suppliers will come to the shipyard when there's a problem area with the material they furnish. This red cord material, we don't have any major complaint, but there's some minor complaint I'm going to tell you. We deal with the Chinese, we deal with the Americans, we deal with the Russians, we deal with the European, and we even deal with the Indonesians. Problem area we can take care of.
We couldn't foresee that English would become the regional lingua franca, that the Indonesians would move towards English and away from Dutch, and that the Thais would move more strongly into English and away from French. we were fortunate and that quite fortuitously, American technological and economic dominance coincided with our English heritage. So the problem was solved for us. It was a bonus.
China after Mao. During the 1980s, the country's most popular TV series was a Teach Yourself English course entitled Follow Me. It turned its presenter into a media star.
Hello, I'm Kate Flower.
Kate Flower's show was watched by a regular audience of 100 million.
Yes, let's.
Brighton is the nearest seaside town. How far is Brighton?
It's 85 kilometers away.
How can we get to Brighton?
By train. We can get there by train.
Today, some 250 million Chinese are learning English. That's more than the entire population of the United States.
Faster by train.
By train.
The Chinese have the only language that rivals English in numbers. An estimated 1 billion use Mandarin. It's ironic that so many of them are now adding themselves to the growing legions who speak English. The 350 million as a mother tongue, the 400 million as a second language, and the 1 billion some claim can get by. In all, perhaps 2/5 of the world's population.
Well, my Chinese isn't quite good enough to translate all of that, but the basic gist of it was that it's for the sake of international friendship, that English is very much the international language used by many different countries, and also that it's necessary for China's progress.
English is so much the language of technology that even advanced countries have to publish scientific abstracts in English. So English has become the indispensable language of progress for the Third World.
It is because of this advancement in matters of economics and science and technology that English has gained its importance. Most of the Third World countries are developing countries, and they have to go a long way, particularly in economic development, some of them also in matters of political development. And they have to get at what has already been achieved in these fields by the developed countries, particularly in the Anglo-Saxon world.
So India has become a major force in teaching English to students from countries like Iran, Vietnam, and Cambodia.
A number of these countries have political systems which are almost diametrically opposite to the political systems that obtain in either England or America, and they think that India is politically closer to them. We have developed a non-aligned variety of English. Therefore, in that sense, we are helping the cause of English in a big way, which is no more the cause of England or America. It's the cause of the world. It's the cause of world communication, and we are doing our bit for it.
If we'd been making this series 10 years ago, it would have been different. We're in the middle of a dramatic story unfolding with astonishing speed. Since the 1970s, the global appetite for information has been growing rapidly, driven by the accelerating internationalization of business, of science, of society. In the phrase of the 1960s, we are now realizing a global village of communications, and the language of that village is English.
English, the language of the skies, is now becoming the language of the 7 seas.
All ships in Dover Strait, all ships in Dover Strait. This is Dover Coast Guard, Dover Coast Guard. Warning.
Dover Strait is the busiest sea lane in the world. As many as 500 ships a day have to navigate safely through this nautical bottleneck. The solution is Sea Speak. Based on Air Speak, it's a simplified English for international waters. The seagoing community includes the traditional rivals of English. It's a sign of the times that they should turn to English to safeguard their merchant fleets.
This vessel is proceeding against the traffic flow. Dover Coast Guard out.